Welcome, everyone. My name is Stephanie Ivick. I'm the Content Marketing Manager here at eLearning Brothers. We have a really great Lectora webinar for you today, but first, a few housekeeping items. This session is being recorded, and we'll email a copy of the recording out to everyone who has registered. If you have questions during the webinar, we want them. Use the questions panel. We'll get to as many as we can, and if we can't get to it, we will reach out to you to continue the conversation afterwards. Joining me today are some members of the Lectora Mod Squad. We have Chris Willis, Director of Product, Cheryl Coggins, Director of Customer Success, Bill Milstead, Senior Developer for Templates, and Josh Bledgy, Product Manager. So these are pretty much all of our Lectora rock stars, and they are here to teach you about modular development. So without further ado, Chris, I'm going to turn the time over to you.
Very good, thanks, Steph. Yep, we're just we're not all of the rock stars. We're just the rock stars that were able to break away to be with you today and do this presentation. What we're going to do today, thank you for joining us. We're going to bust some ModDev myths. And for those of you who don't know yet what ModDev is, don't worry, we're going to get to that too. But we're going to talk about what is ModDev. We're going to play a little game of Lectora Feud and bust up those myths. And we're going to give you, as always in LECTORALIVE, we're going to give you a sneak preview of what's new in LECTORAland. So before we get started with that, I always like to start with a poll, because then if we know who our audience is, then we can help tailor this to you and your needs and expectations. So if you would, Steph, you want to grab that poll?
Sure thing. So you should be seeing a poll on your screen. Just go ahead and click right on that and let us know what your position is. And if you are selecting other, feel free to tell us in the questions panel what that other role is.
Yep. So yeah, let us know, are you an ID or a trainer, e-learning developer? These days, I know those two kind of interchange too. If you identify as ID and developer, go ahead and click the ID. If you are really dedicated to e-learning development, just stay in your lane there. That's great.
All right, it looks like about everybody has voted, so I'm going to close the poll and share the results here. We also had some people post in the chat all of the above.
All of the above. You know, I've been in the forums lately talking to a lot of IDs, and that's definitely a trend. I've been talking a little bit about the unicorn ID that companies, when they post the job description for their next instructional designer, and you are somehow expected to be an expert author and technical writer and graphic designer and programmer, and also, yes, you better be an expert in adult learning theory and everything else. And I'm seeing so much of that where, and not just in teams of one, they're even in larger teams, they're expecting you to come to the table with this wide spectrum of skills that used to be specializations, and still really are in other places, in marketing and other places. Those are very much specializations, but somehow in e-learning we're supposed to wear all the hats. So let's take a look at this one too. So what best describes your relationship right now with Lectora? Steph, you want to pop that one up?
Yes, that is open. So let us know how close you and Lectora are.
So yes, you and Lectora, is it a long-term kind of thing, or are you just kind of getting to know each other? You know, maybe you're Lectora curious. That's okay. We are glad you're here, and we want to bust your myth about Lectora. And if it's complicated, that's okay too, because we're gonna kind of win you back over to the Lectora side. It's okay if you've cheated a little bit. We got you. We got you.
We do have one comment in the chat, long term, but it is complicated. So, all right, I'm going to give you guys one more second and then we'll share these results. Oh, another comment. We've been roomies for a while.
Cohabitating with Lectora. Yeah, I've been cohabitating with Lectora lately too. So yeah.
All right, let's see these results. So it looks like about half of you are in a long-term relationship. So props to you guys. And we've also got some people who are just kind of starting their journey with Lectora.
Super, super. Thank you. You are all welcome here in Lectora land. We're really glad to have you. And so without further ado, let's get into this. One thing I know about working as an ID is this one thing here is no myth whatsoever. And that is that we are all working with these challenges of not having enough time, you don't have the budget, how are you going to keep your courses consistent? Some of you have seen some of my other presentations, know that I pull this slide out often, and it's because this is us. This is the world we live in as IDs. And I'll tell you what, here on product, it's not a whole lot different. It's just kind of the way of work right now. We're all expected to do a whole lot, and nobody feels that they have enough. Not only do we feel that we not have enough, but I think really in many cases, a lot of us really don't have everything that we need to do our job the way we'd like to do our job and the way we feel our job should be done, right? That's just kind of the nature of work right now. And there are three things that your company could do to help you out with that, right? They could hire more people, they could ask you to work faster, or what most companies are doing, and we're challenged here at Learning Brothers, just like you all, is find ways to do more with less, because the world is moving faster and things change rapidly. So we can't possibly staff up for every need, every changing need. It takes time, even by the time you recognize that that need is there. So you have to have systems in place that are agile and flexible and allow you to address those changing needs for your organization. And that's where ModDev was born. That was one of the inspirations, not just with how do we make Lectora easier and how do we make Lectora more accessible in the sense of accessible to new people learning Lectora, which it does. But really, the main goal of Lectora was how do we create a system that helps our Lectora customers use Lectora to get their job done efficiently, faster, and meet business goals. So that's at the core of any design system. That's the same for at the core of Lectora ModDev. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Josh here, Josh Bledgy. And let me see how we do this here. I'm going to, oh, Steph's going to do it for me, I think, maybe. I'm going to change the presenter to Josh. Here we go. Josh, you should be the presenter now.
Okay. Let me see what we got here. Are we seeing Lectora Online right here?
I am seeing Lectora Online. Looks gorgeous, Josh. There's those tutorials that you posted in there. Those are awesome.
Yeah, we'll get to those in a moment. But right now, I'm just going to give you a kind of a brief tour. I mean, if you were on the, if you joined us for the Lectora 21 launch webinar, you saw a more in-depth demo of what I'm going to do today. But today, I'm going to show it in Lectora Online. So that way we can see what ModDev looks like there as well. So, but this whole process works very similarly in both Lectora Online and Lectora Desktop. So you really just have to pick your poison of which one do you prefer. There's some nuances that work better or a little bit nicer in Lectora Online, in my opinion, than what we're able to do in Lectora Desktop, just because of limitations on desktop application. But it works pretty similarly. Everything's going to look fairly close to the same in both tools. So Lectora ModDev is built on, like Chris just mentioned, a series of components that work well together. And those all start from the basis of a framework, which gives you a structure and an outline to your course. So when you're in Lectora, when you click on the Create New Project, I guess icon button on either the dashboard here in Lectora Online or the dashboard that's included in Lectora Desktop, you'll be brought back here and have the option to click on a course framework. Now, again, course frameworks, they're just an outline, very basic. As we open one up, you'll see that it's unstyled. There's not anything, it doesn't look too crazy when you get it there in the Project Explorer, and on the stage, it doesn't look, it's just very simple, but these are all very powerful in what they're able to do because they handle different learning models, different learning needs that you might have. From anything from just a basic, start here and go to the end straightforward through a linear kind of model, or if you're looking for something more complicated like a branching or something with a pretest assessment, those are all built already for you with the logic and everything that you need to build your course and to publish it as well. They're all built to be SCORM publishable as well. So I'm just going to come here and pick the basic linear. We made it nice and pink here, so that way for new people that are starting with Lectora, you know that this is a good place to start because it looks really friendly. And we'll click create. It's going to ask me to just give it a title, so that way I don't override something I've done in the past. So we'll just title that real quick. And like I said before, you'll notice that it's completely unstyled. It's just very basic. Gives you the structure of your course that you set out to make. And so all the images are placeholders, all the text is placeholder. Helps kind of give you a few subtle hints. One of the nice things too is you'll notice here off the stage is that there's some instructions for you as well as you're going through as reminders as you're working with the modular development system here. So now that we have our framework here, we want to start building out our full entire course. And to start with that, I'm going to go ahead and insert a couple of pages just to give myself a little bit more structure to it. So I'm going to put those right after the objective here. And one thing that you'll notice here as we've redeveloped this, these page layouts to match this modular development system. So like, for instance, we'll use this title and bullets. You'll notice that this fits in a similar grid layout to like where this one fits. So all the content is pretty much in the same spots. So that way it all kind of sizes similarly to each other. And they're all responsive to the different views as well, which is very, very helpful. So I'm going to insert one more page just to have something else here. We're going to do a image and bullet with rows. So now I've had a couple of pages, and if I had more time, I would start building out the content that would go into these pages to kind of give myself a rough prototype of what my course would look like. But we don't have all the time in the world today, so I'm going to show you some of the other things that work with modular development. And then the next thing I'm going to show are our new themes. Now, if you haven't seen these yet, you're in for quite a surprise because we redesigned themes as well for Lectora 21 and Lectora Online, its most recent release, to give you more modern, up-to-date, responsive, editable themes. So that was a lot of things all in a row. So you'll just have to kind of come in here and experience them for yourself. But I'm just going to show a couple off so that way you can see what we're looking at. So I'm going to go ahead and actually I'm going to start with this Amaranth theme. Now you notice that there's some that have navigation and some that won't. Because the frameworks, because of some of the logic that we built into them, they have required us to have certain actions on the navigation buttons. We wanted to give you an option to either use the navigation that's already in place within the framework, or if you had more experience, you could take those out and use the more styled navigation that comes with the theme. Or if you just want to use that, you could. And the nice thing about these themes too is they are, they're swappable. So like if I wanted to change out to this fleur-de-lis theme, I'm here. If I wanted to say use Minimus, which is actually one of my more favorite ones that I actually designed and developed for us, I have that option here. So I'm going to keep this one out here because I really do enjoy this theme. And as you can see, everything fits quite nicely within the theme. So you see where the boxes are, everything lays out quite well. Now, I'm looking at this thinking, okay, I have a couple of pages here, but I really have a topic that I think would work pretty well in an interaction. And so we built some interaction wireframes that work well with modular development as well. So in order to get to those, I'm just going to go up to Tools, go to the Template Library, scroll down a tiny bit, and I'm just going to click View More so you can see everything that's available. So these are all the current wireframes that are available to you. Again, these are very unstyled, like our frameworks are. So that way you can use them however you want to. Like these are even good, like if you're not even using the rest of the modular development system, these are good things to throw in to help you speed up your development anyways, because again, unstyled interaction that you can add your company's branding to. Just perfect, powerful, great option here. And we've built these out to be available as both a package file and a WWO. So if you even want to start a course with it, you could select the package and do that. Same thing in Lectora Desktop. There's formats for that in that tool as well. But for this instance, I just want to insert this directly into my course, my project here. So I'm just going to select this WWO, and you'll see it tells me that it's already in there. And as I come back to the stage, I see that, yep, I have an interaction here. If I go over to run, I can see that this is all functional and has some states forming everything. So this is fully editable. I can edit it and add the different colors and whatnot to it as I wish, again, to match your company's branding, because we know it's very common that we have that.
So these are great too. One of the things when you take the first tutorial that's on the dash, and we'll show you that again before we leave, but when you take that tutorial, you'll actually learn in that tutorial how to use these frameworks and wireframes and these layouts to create a storyboard or a rapid, really more than a storyboard. You're really creating a rapid prototyping tool is what you're doing. And that's one of the reasons that we didn't style them. Those of you who know Lectora and know how Lectora works, with inheritance, once you start adding your style and doing things carry throughout the project, and you can get locked into certain styling decisions, or it can be distracting from how you want to present the ID behind your project. So we've removed all of that, made it simple, and you build up instead of taking out.
Yep, exactly. And so the last thing that I want to show you here is part of this system. Again, like Chris had that slide up there, and I think we'll put that back up in a minute for the roll call so you can get a little review of everything that we showed you here. But we have something called a style pack. And what a style pack is it gives you, at the base level, it gives you a set of design elements to style your background very simply and quickly. We also have add-ons within the asset library that you can bring in that are the color palette, fonts, some icons that go with it to take it to the next level. I won't really show you that today, just again due to time. But just really quick here, I'm going to come in here and show you how to apply a style pack to this real quick. So again, you come over to design, and the style pack drop down. And in this case, the theme that I'm using that this coordinates with is Minimalist Grayscale. So I'll go ahead and insert that. And you'll notice that it puts in a bunch of groups here at the top for those design elements. But if I go down to my page here, you'll notice that they're not there. If you're familiar with Lectora, this is kind of unusual behavior because anything that starts at this top level gets applied to every page that's underneath it. Style packs work outside of that just so that way we can make things a little bit simpler, a little bit cleaner, so that way you don't have all these groups applying to the page. So we just allow you to apply which groups you want to specific pages. And to do that, we've added, if you noticed here, we have a tag here at the end of this group. We have that same tag here against this title page. And so if I come over to page properties and apply style, I get a drop down that includes all these groups. I'll go ahead and select that 2 row there. You can also, and here's a top. This very quickly just applies this layout to these. So like for instance too, this one down here, these are a 2 column. And this one's also a 2 column. So I'll come here and just shift click to select those. You can also control click to select things that are out of order. And then I can apply them all at once to this. So this really speeds up, any sort of styling that you're doing. This is really great if you're not a graphic designer, or if you just want to get through this phase very quickly, you can easily do that. You also have the option to edit these. These are fully editable shapes that are built within Lectora that you can come up and edit in any way that you wish. So I'll just use something very drastic so you can see the difference. I would not necessarily recommend this. Actually, that doesn't look too bad, really. But but you see kind of the difference there. They're fully editable. You can save them out. we're even like looking at doing some tutorials on how to use these as library objects to create your own design system for your organization, because that's really where this becomes powerful, is when you can start reusing these elements for your own development in any which way you want to. So that's just a very quick rundown of how this all works. Again, there's videos and tutorials out there for you. If you're in Lectora Online, we've made that even easier. We've added to this dashboard some quick tutorials, what we're calling quick wins, to help you, like Chris said, build a course prototype and then add some interactivity and style to it. So like stepping you up each tutorial, so that way you're not getting overwhelmed by doing everything all at once. You're learning it step by step. And it's pretty easy because each of these files kind of gives you a starting point to build on. And they're pretty simple to access. You just come here to this guide button, you click the guide to launch it into our knowledge base, which will then bring you to an article. You can see kind of what's covered in this tutorial down here at the bottom. And then you can click in and you have access to a very nice PDF that you can download and keep for your own use. We do update these from time to time as we get feedback from individuals that have taken them, or just things that we want to update from the tool and things of that nature. But you can come in here and see everything. You'll get some resources to help you build this course with some text file and some images, as well as a roadmap to show you what everything's supposed to look like. And then we just walk you through very quickly with some screenshots how to build this. So if you have some team members maybe that are new to Lectora, if you yourself are new, this is a really good starting point to come in here and get some experience with Lectora. And as you go through these, if you find spots where you get stuck or run into difficulty, feel free to contact us through the community or through support or however, to let us know, hey, I tripped up at this part, and if you weren't able to figure it out, let us know and we'll help you walk you through it at that point. We're very excited to have these out here. There will be some videos and other things to go along with these coming out in the near future, but we wanted to at least get you something to start out with the release of Lectora Online. And a lot of the things that we talked about here can be applied to Lectora Desktop, even though those weren't specifically built for Lectora Desktop. They can apply there as well. Yep. So,
yeah, the majority of those things that you're seeing in the LO tutorials will show as well. Are you seeing my screen again, Josh? Or super duper. Thank you for that overview. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate that overview. I do want to give a shout out to Cheryl, because without Cheryl and our customer success team, our frameworks would not have been possible. Frameworks came from an analysis of years of use cases that Cheryl and her team and her colleagues in CS have supported for Lectora. And there was a lot of thinking that went behind how do folks in who are developing e-learning, how do these instructional designers approach a project, and what would make that easier and faster to do in Lectora. And we determined that instead of trying to take away controls and just simplify and give you a player to lock into, what we would do is look at the actual complex use cases and problems that people need to solve in the field using Lectora, and how do we take that work off of them and give them something to start with. So I don't know, Cheryl, like if I put you on the spot, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add to that or say or
Oh, well, thanks, Chris. I just think that, obviously frameworks are close to my heart. I just think that these concepts of bringing these module pieces together to allow people to quickly put items together with the right logic in place is really the key. You can learn from these, even if you don't like anything we've built for you. You can disassemble it and learn how to take advantage of the flexibility of Lectora. So I'm thrilled with these, and I know that as the team continues to work, there'll be more and more variety created, and I know that these kinds of things will be built out on just to meet additional needs. And I'll just throw out here about the community. that if anyone on this session is not already in the community, they should participate there. And there's also the feedback forum on the community. So if you have an idea for a framework or a page layout or something that you would like, throw it out there. They'd be happy to see those that input from you. So.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Cheryl. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the shout for community too, because we here at ELB, eLearning Brothers, we monitor community daily. And we really are looking for ideas and feedback along with trying to solve your problems. Cheryl and her team, we kind of keep an eye out and look for things that if there are things that come up that community itself can't help solve, we have folks that are looking for those issues and helping to take care of them. But more than that, I think we're looking for what are the jobs you're trying to do in Lectora, and what are you trying to get done using Lectora? What kind of challenges are you facing where we can make it easier for you to do that? And because Bill on the template team is also talking with us on the product team and then the engineering team and the customer success team, and we're all talking together and looking for what are these problems and how can we help you make your job easier, because that's really what we want to focus on here with Lectora. Not just how do you make cool learning, not just how do you make effective learning, but how can we help you do your job better? And that's something that's really near and dear to our hearts. And those of us who work as PMs, product managers, that's really our #1 role, is to be the advocate for you. So without further ado, because again, all of these things, the frameworks, the themes, the page layouts, the wireframes, the style packs, you can learn all about those more actually taking that tutorial. When you take the Lectora online tutorial, you will be building a course that is all about ModDev. So you'll learn more about these things as you go. I saw a question in the panel, is this available for LD? Josh, let's make that a priority and try and get this available for LD. It really, the biggest difference is, in fact, I don't even know if they would need anything different. Would they need anything different, Josh, to take this for LD?
They really wouldn't. I mean, we should make versions that are specifically for LD just because there are some very, very minor differences to how things work. And some of the screenshots may be a little bit different, but it's really very base. Essentially, they're very similar to each other. If you find spots that are a little bit different, again, feel free to point them out, reach out to us in the community or whatnot, and let us know. But yeah, we'll make LD versions of these as well, just so that way we have them for both tools, just in case there are some differences there.
Yeah, the frameworks are there, the themes, the page layouts, the wireframes, the style packs, all the ModDev elements, those have parity across both tools. How you surface them and use them is a little bit different in the different tools, because there's different technologies and you have to grab things a little bit differently. And I know that some of our users out there who are working behind a firewall, they can't always get to the library in the same way either. Sometimes they have to go out and get their assets and things and set up to do that. So those kinds of things we could address specifically in tool. But I will say, if you were to download the guide now, you guys are pretty crafty people. You'll figure that out. I know you would. And you would actually be able to complete the tutorial. And if you have any questions as you go, just reach out. We're here for you. We'll help you along the way. And that'll help inform us what we can do when we do make a version specific tutorial for you. So great. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that. So let's get into this, because otherwise we're going to run out of time. But who wants to play Lectora Feud? So let's actually get into these myths. One of the interesting things when you work in product is when you roll out something new, even if you've talked to, as we did, a large number of people, and you go out and you have discussions with folks, and you gather your data, and even talking internally, cross-functionally to all the different departments, and that sometimes it's surprising when you roll something out how some things are received or the questions that come up. And so what we did here was I've collected some of those questions, and I want you to pretend that we went out and surveyed existing Lectora users, and we wanted to uncover the top 5 myths bubbling up about Lectora ModDev. What would the survey say? So this is meant to be interactive. Please feel free to enter your comments and questions in the questions panel, and we'll try and pick those off. We've got the folks monitoring the panel now. So let's see here. All right, so the number 5 busted ModDev myth is ModDev is a new app. This one actually totally kind of floored me. Some folks, and I think it comes from the fact that some other tools, they have a separate rapid builder from the actual base tool. And in Lectora, no, absolutely not. What we tried to do was take the methodologies and the what do I want to say? We want to take the methodologies and the approach and create the assets, but allow you to stay within the main body of Lectora, because we know that a lot of our Lectora users have invested literally years in learning and mastering the tool. And we wanted to make Lectora easier and take advantage of the good things that are built into Lectora, like inheritance and like RCD, where you have control of all 3 views, and or all 6 views, I guess it is, 5 views, 6 views, all the views, you get all the views. So you get to control them all, right? So Josh?
Yeah, no, I think the important thing to note is that like most of the functionality that we've used to create ModDev was already in Lectora before eLearning Brothers even acquired it last year. We just found different ways to use it, exploit it, however you want to put it. Elevate it to make it work in this way. This is not anything that's actually anything too new for Lectora. There's a few things that we've added to make things work a little bit more streamlined, but overall, it's mostly functionality that was already there.
Yes, yes. So it's a new way of thinking, and it's based again on methodology and good solid ID, as opposed to totally upending the tool. So no, ModDev is not a new tool. It's not a new app. It's not a separate app. It is baked into Lectora itself. It just, once you learn the system, it gives you an approach to using Lectora that's more effective, more efficient, scalable, repeatable, etc. The number 4 ModDev myth. I'd have to start over from scratch. No, you don't, because this is Lectora taking advantage of Lectora. You don't have to start from scratch. Now, somebody I see on here is saying something about having trouble bringing in older courses. Again, one of the issues that we have, and one of the caveats is we have folks who have catalogs with courses that are a decade or more old, and some of them, the courses have been brought up and then brought up and brought up. And so sometimes in the newer versions, as you would with any tool, as you would with any technology, you're going to run into some things that are going to have to be kind of weeded out, and you might have to touch as you bring things in. But that will not be because of Lectora itself. The things that you have within Lectora, this is an extra. I call it the icing on the Lectora cake. But you don't, this is not where we've taken and completely altered how Lectora reads its course or saves its course. And as always, just because of some of the technologies and the way that Lectora is kind of a web native development sort of approach to e-learning, in many ways, your courses are future-proofed in ways they aren't in some other proprietary tools, where if the tool goes away, you literally would not be able to open it in anything else or use it. So that's something that is kind of a bit of a dangerous myth that I want to make sure that it's dispelled. For those of you who are having issues with upgrading, and that our CS team is here to help, and also again in our community, because many of our members in our community have faced the same challenges that you have. When I worked in corporate, it was very often, like I remember back when plugins were pulled out of browsers and we would have to go back and does anybody shockwave anyone, you know, and you had to go back and totally redo your catalog, and those things happen. And then when you go by attrition to pull up a course that you have out there, you're going to find some of that stuff buried in there, and we've got to work our way through. But that just is the nature of the beast and the world we live in. There's no reason you have to start over from scratch. And you will find many things. If you're one of the folks using one of the legacy Lectoras, you will find many things are a lot easier and work smoother because we've kept up with the pace of the ever-changing pace of what the browser imposes on us as app developers. Myth number 3. ModDev is just templates. No, ModDev is not just templates. As we talked about, ModDev's an entire methodology. And when you learn the ModDev methodology, it gives you an entire approach to the way to set up your team, to think about if you are going to approach a large project, say, and you have to build out a curriculum with 25 courses, instead of setting out, 5 developers and saying, here for the next year, you each develop your 5, this gives you a methodology right from the beginning for what kinds of templates you're going to need, what kinds of things you're going to need to think about, how to set up, what to give everybody so that they have creative freedom, but within a certain set of parameters that makes everything kind of work together within a system. So this is unique somewhat to Lectora. This comes from some of the work that we did here, and again in the history of talking with others who develop these kind of large curricula, working with these kind of clients. Our custom team works in these kinds of projects very often, and there's a distinct setup process that you follow when approaching work that way. That's baked right into ModDev. The reason that you would use ModDev as a system are all the ilities, and I've since expanded the ilities to 8. Here are kind of the top 5. Agility, we've taken all the heavy lifting from you. Repeatability, again, when you know where everybody's starting, you're giving everybody kind of the same play set to work with in the beginning. Supportability, you are eliminating variables, and I don't mean that it's cookie cutter. This is Lectora, folks. You know Lectora. It's like once you bring in a wireframe is a library object. And when you bring that into Lectora, you can act on it in any way you care to. You can build it, you can change it, you can modify it. You don't even have to bring it in. As Cheryl mentioned, many of our customers take our frameworks and our templates, and what they do is they analyze them, break them down, and then they take what they learn from that and apply it to their project. Maybe they're modifying an existing project, but they want to make it more interactive. They'll get one of our templates and then go in and see how that was done and then apply it. So usability, we want to make Lectora more usable for you and approachable. So we've added, we're working on the videos, the exercises, and also because the system's set up, the way it's set up. When I talk to one of our users who's onboarding new IDs into his workflow, and I say, how do you ID them? Well, first or how do you onboard them? First, we give them a course that needs to be edited, and then I teach to the job that they need to do within that course. With ModDev, you can do the same thing. You can set up a very known process for how to approach and how to get started, and then allow them to build off of that. So you teach to the system instead of starting with an open book. open slate. And then accessibility, of course, Lectora is all in on accessibility, always has been, always will be. So I saw somebody asked, is templates and our ModDev accessible? We'll speak to that a little bit, where the boundaries of yes, this is accessible, and where you may need to make some alterations. We'll speak to that a little bit when I get Bill on the call here shortly. ModDev is only for new projects. No, that's absolutely not true as well. You can open a legacy project in Lectora, and you can take a look at some of the ModDev things that are available. You could even alter the grid in your project. When you bring the project in, if you were to bring in, say, a style pack and apply it to your page and it doesn't fit because your page wasn't built to the grid, you can either modify your content on your page to fit within the grid and use that, or you can actually modify because the elements will appear at the top in your project. You can actually modify those elements and use them as you would use any other template or anything you brought into your project. So you can go ahead. It's not just for new projects, but that's where you're going to, if you start something new or you're setting up a large project, once you built out your own custom set of frameworks, custom set of templates and things that are branded for you, you will see all the benefits of ModDev there, even as you build into existing projects. And the number one ModDev myth is ModDev is only for new users. And we've been talking about that all along. There are a lot of people who I was, again, one of these mind blown moments, who came in and, please don't dumb down my Lectora. And I think because we have a lot of people entering the ID profession from other professions, and because they're being asked to develop things very quickly, and also because there is a movement in the web development side to make tools available for people who are not web developers. So if you want to set up a storefront, say, and you want to go and get your website up, there are tools that are very heavily templatized but very fast that allow you to do that quickly and get results that look like a designer at some point thought about it and put that together for you. ModDev is not that kind of templatization, and it's not that kind of approach. Because ModDev is built in Lectora for Lectora users, everything here is still open, everything still appears in your Project Explorer, everything is still fully editable the way you would develop any Lectora course. And we have, in fact, some people who love to get in under the hood and tweak at the CSS level. And even though that's not a supported way, a supported approach here, meaning that we can't support it here because there are so many variables when you start actually programming within your Lectora, right? But it's there, and we have a lot of folks who do it. So you can still do that even if you started the course with a framework, even if you added elements from ModDev. So those are our myths. These Lectora myths are not true. And yes, that I'll just leave that leave that there for you to read. But I think we'll stop. We're going to get into the what's new next. But I would love to kind of take a step back, invite Bill in, Josh in, Cheryl in. Let's take a step and attack some of the questions. Hey there, Bill. Would you like to speak a little bit? I know it's kind of a little bit of a slippery slope because accessibility is such a wide subject, and we all know there are some things that interaction types and things that customers like to use, and they make the choice to put in things that by choice are not accessible. But in general, where do we stand on ModDev and accessibility?
Yeah, so it's a almost all the way there for you kind of a thing. Okay, so you know, we look at minimum font sizes in here. We kind of do, you know, the contrast ratio, all that kind of general stuff is taken care of, right? Now it's really easy in the wireframe ModDev kind of world because we're talking about black and white, so certain things kind of get a little easier there. Any changes you make, obviously, that you're going to need to address. But you know, we turn off alt tags for anything that's non-descriptive. I mean, we kind of make the effort, like I was saying with font sizes, things like that. We make the effort to get you most of the way there. Now we don't include a skip nav in these. There are a couple other little things that we don't do, but I'd say we're 90-95% of the way to where you need to be. Maybe even higher. I tend to hedge bets lower. These folks know that. But what I will say is that gap. All right, that's on the roadmap for templates. So. We've got, and we've been talking about it for a while, but it's really becoming kind of a hot button issue around here now, especially lately. We've got some accessibility focused templates, well, really purely focused on accessibility templates in the hopper. So while these may require a couple extra bits of work to get you up to the specific level of accessibility you look to be at, right? For instance, if you include a skip nav, these don't, right? The upcoming templates that are on deck will do all of that for you, and they're really geared just toward that. So,
and then if they run the accessibility checker, they will find anything. It'll bring it to their attention.
Yeah, and you shouldn't see. Yeah, you shouldn't really see anything running from a wireframe or a framework. They're really, all that accessibility checker stuff should be taken care of for the most part.
Super. Let me see what else we have in here. Steph, any other questions that you see that are there that we should?
I think those are it for now. We had a lot of questions about links to that quick guide that Josh shared, and I posted that in the chat. Oh, here we've got one final question about accessibility. If I want to avoid extra pop-up windows and create a layer on top of the main screen, are those layers accessible?
I do know that we have accessible light boxes now in Lectora.
Okay, yeah, so that
yes.
might be the answer this person is looking for. Accessible light boxes.
Super. And yeah, so that and it's great because when you create those things, because of how Lectora exposes everything in the Project Explorer, you can kind of get a very good, even before you test, a very good idea of what order things will be received and read to or perceived by the learner if they're tabbing through their course and taking it using assistive technologies. So that's something that's kind of unique to Lectora, and certainly will give you an advantage if you're trying to create learning that is accessible. Let's see here. So what's next? What's new? What's next? This is where I get to turn it over, and you guys don't have to listen to me. You get to listen to the other folks on the call here. So Josh, I know we introduced them a little bit. For those who were on the call last month, you've seen these folks. You may have seen them in community, but go ahead. For anybody who's new, go ahead and give them an introduction, Josh.
Yeah, so my role actually at ELB, and we didn't say this in the beginning because it gets really long when you introduce my title, but I'm actually over our asset library, which is included with your Lectora subscription. And if you weren't aware of that, you are now. You can go explore that. But we've added some new cutout characters. This is something that the community's been asking for a long time. They wanted specifically more diversity within our cutout character library, which was already, when you really look through it, it's actually pretty diverse in the first place, but we wanted to give some more modern and fresh characters to that. So last month, beginning of July, middle of July, sometime in there, we added 5 new characters that are in more modern attire, obviously from different nationalities, ethnicities there. And so these are just fun to go check them out. They are available directly in Tool and Lectora. We have a blog post about this, which it looks like got posted to the chat for you, where there's a video of where to access those. in tool, as well as through the asset library. And we'll be adding more characters. Our next release is slated for sometime in October. Right now, I can't really say too much about that one. We do have a specific theme in mind for that one that is going to be very popular with a lot of folks on this call. That's all I'm going to say. I can't say any more than that. But we're still working on that to make sure that it can come off the way that we want it to. So, but you will see more cutout characters coming from us at least once a quarter, if not more frequently. If you like what you see, please again let us know in the community, so that way we can continually add more of these characters to continue to update that library. And if there's other assets that you're missing that you're like, oh, it'd be cool if we had this type of an asset in the library or something. I'm meaning more of like not necessarily specific images for your industry. We get a lot of that question. There's not a lot I can do about that specific one because if you're in mining, I can't really go out and find a whole library on mining just for you. I'm sorry. But I try to make the library as complete as we possibly can. But if there's things that make your job easier, please let us know. And we'll make sure. And if there's improvements to the asset library you'd like to see, like the interface and whatnot, let us know. We do have some plans in the hopper, like I like that terminology, in the hopper, that we have coming later in the year for the asset libraries in Lectora and whatnot. But again, can't say too much right now. But we do try to make improvements for you to make sure that we can make this library and the assets within it as useful to you as we possibly can.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, I had fun. I've used a couple of those in this presentation. I've had a lot of fun with the new characters. I'm looking forward to meeting the next set of fresh faces that come our way. Bill, over to you. We've got about 5 minutes here, but if you could just give us a quick overview. Introduce us to a philosopher, please.
Yeah. So we've released a whole lot in the last month since we've done. Oh no, you're good. Leave it there. You don't need to. You're okay. We'll just run through it real fast. We've released a lot in the last month or so since we've done one of these. One of the things, there's some accessible games out there, some other stuff going on. One of the things that we did is this: we expanded this philosopher set that we had out there. So we've had a philosopher course starter for a little bit, or kind of elements of it. But what we did in the last month is we've gone and we've kind of expanded that course starter set to include a whole lot more. So in addition to the kind of baseline set of templates that is included in the course starter for both LD and LO, we also added a bunch of standalone interactions, some conversational templates, so that you can, if you're using this particular style, you can really blow out your options for interactions inside of your course. And if you're new to it, then you got a whole lot to start with and work with. Like I was saying, we've also got, there's an accessible game that we added up there. There's some showcase courses that we've put up. We've got another one that's going to be coming down the road here shortly that's interesting. It'll be a totally different version of a course in Lectora in terms of format. So and using some existing assets out there on the library, so you can see how to package things a little differently. That's it for me. I know we're out of time, so there we go.
Thank you, Bill, so very much. Thank you. Speaking of accessibility, that will be the theme for LECTORALIVE in September. We will be having a guest, and hopefully we have a little something in the works to help you build more accessible courses in Lectora. Hopefully that will be available by then, or if not, we'll be able to give you an update on that. And now, Stephanie, take us home.
Saving the best slide for last. All right. We have a 30-day free trial of Lectora. So if you are Lectora curious, just starting out your relationship with Lectora, you don't have to commit. You get 30 days after you've swiped right on Lectora, and to make sure that that relationship is right for you. So I am going to post the link to that in the chat, just in case anyone needs it. And of course, as Chris mentioned, we also have the Rockstars community. So if you want to ask questions, especially like all this stuff about accessibility, that's a really great resource to connect with other instructional designers who are building accessible content in Lectora every day. And that link is also in the chat. And as always, you can reach out to any of us and we'll be happy to answer your question or find the person who can. As Chris said, next month is accessibility, so registration will be opening up for that soon. Be sure to get that on your calendars and bring all of your burning accessibility questions. We really appreciate everyone who came today. The chat has been hopping. Hopefully I've gotten to all of your questions. If not, just reach out to us and we will find the answers for you. Thank you so much for attending. We hope to see you on our next webinar. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.